Good evening. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Village of Alsip Committee meeting. Today is June 25th. We'll call this meeting to order at 7:33. Can we call the roll, please?
Yes. Trustee McGreal? Here. Trustee Dalzell?
Here.
Trustee Pierce is absent this evening. Trustee Zelinski?
Here.
Trustee Juarez?
Here.
Trustee McLaughlin?
Here.
Mayor Ryan?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Officers' reports, starting with myself. Oh, I'm sorry, we got a bid opening again, don't we?
You just like to skip over me,
know,
don't you?
We just don't get enough of those bid openings, that's for sure.
Good evening. We have a bid opening. The first bid has been received from RJ Underground, Inc. at 5330 50th. That's 50 Street, Suite 200, Kenosha, Wisconsin, 53144. Don't be, like, pushing stuff past Dan here. He needs stuff. There is a bid bond included. The total for the bid is $1,104,856 even. That's 1104856.00. Bid number 2 is Aries, AIRY Incorporated. They are located at 7455 West Duvon Avenue, Tinley Park, Illinois, 60477. They also have a bid bond. Their total is $550,729 even. That is 550729.00. The third bid we received is from LGS Plumbing. They are located at 1112 East Summit Street in Crown Point, Indiana, 46307. As a note, this bid was received at 4:03 p.m. The GPS had guided this person to the wrong location. They have enclosed a bid bond, and their total is $1,160,474.75. That is 1,160,474.75. And that is all of the bids, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Officers' report, starting with myself. One, I wanted to just bring to everyone's attention, and I want to thank all of the volunteers that participated in Saturday's graduation class for the CERT program that former Chief Chuck Tracy's overseeing. He's the Director of Emergency Preparedness for the Village of Alsip. The Chief had 28 graduates, I believe, this weekend. They actually participated in a 2-month training program. Was it about 2 months?
Yes, it was.
You were one of them.
Yes, it was.
And thank you very much. Trustee McGreal did the same, too. And you guys had a great turnout this weekend. And it was impressive to see groups from other communities that came in to support the same. They had some folks that were in from Bedford Park and some folks from New Lenox as well, too, that have CERT programs. Real good. And actually, former Chief Tracy did a nice job of securing some donations for the graduation as well. He actually had sandwiches donated by Jimmy John's. He had Beggar's Pizza, threw in some pizza and so forth there too. And I tell you, it was a nice event. They were actually there since 7 o'clock in the morning, running some drills on extrication, getting people out of vehicles and whatnot then too. And Trustee, maybe you can give a quick overview. What are some of the things you learned with the CERT program?
They put me on medical.
Yeah.
It was a very intensive 8-week course. It could have went on, and we'll have monthly training still, I believe. Mm-hmm. And but it was I already talked to 2 people out there that I think should go for the second class because we're the first graduating class. But it's an excellent program, and it was a variety of expertise over different areas, and the people that stood up to lead, be the team leaders, did an exceptional job, and the lady from what was her name? I'm sorry, if you remember, Clerk Petzel. When she gave her evaluation of us, she had said that this group had done a really good job for the first time, and it was her 13th CERT training that she had participated in. So that was a nice compliment to the whole group.
And certainly we all know Chief Tracy to be very thorough in what he does and so forth yet too. So there was a lot of
He put a lot of time and effort into it. It was incredible.
I could tell going over the materials just that one day. I spent about an hour reading everything that he had. And again, CERT it's C-E-R-T. It stands for Community Emergency Response Team. And this is a group of volunteers that can be deployed to either emergency and non-emergency situations for our community, and we can certainly assist other communities as well then too. About a week ago, actually, almost all their members took on 3-hour shifts just to help direct traffic for an event at the Park District, and this way we reduce the amount of overtime, like personnel will be on duty and stuff then too. So it was a savings to the village. I tell you, what I had said to the group afterward too is, volunteerism isn't what people think it is anymore. I mean, sometimes you have a hard time finding a friend to help you paint a garage, but to get a group of adults to come out and actually volunteer for a good cause, whether it's for our community or others, or even if they use this in their own personal lives, I think it's a great idea then too. So I thank everyone that did it. Mr. and Mrs. McGreal did it. Clerk Petzel did it with her 2 sons and so forth then too, so we really appreciate all their help here then too. So thank you very much on behalf of the village. First on my list that I had here too was a discussion to request approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 13, which is known as a miscellaneous provision and offenses, Article 3, vegetation control of the municipal code of the Village of Alsip. Basically what this does is, and we don't have an ordinance in place that specifically identifies with collection for, let's say, for instance, for overgrown grass or vegetation. We certainly can cite violators for tall grass, anything over 8 inches tall and then some. We can certainly cite them for the offense. And they used to try and collect through means of water bills. We found out that you can't do that, so I wanted a ordinance put in place so that people that are in violation of this ordinance, we have a tool to help collect and such. Whereas what I drafted to the board, we've actually got I don't have it right in front of me here, but I actually did list a cost associated with. And what I had presented at the time with that list, and I apologize, I'm looking at the ordinance here, I don't have the cost list in front of me here, but it was, there's a $100 citation involved, but, when you're going to cite somebody, but in some cases, it's almost redundant to throw out violations at folks if it's going to be repetitive. If you're not going to cut the grass, it is a health issue. And in some cases, we may even have to call in somebody like every week if you're going to keep being an offender yet, too. If that were the case, I believe the cost of that was like $40 to cut the grass weekly, but there would be a $50 administrative fee for us making the call to stay on top of this yet, too. I don't have anybody here tonight from the health department, but what I'm told is there's a number of people who are regular violators, and we do get calls here all the time. And Deputy Chief Schulte, would you know off the top of your head, how many repeat violators do you think we have?
In the last court call, our repeat violators, we had 4 of them.
Four
And
repeats.
coming up, there's a couple of more this month.
Okay.
People that have received multiple violations already this year, but have had an ongoing history of receiving violations spanning back several years.
Okay. There's a lot of detail here, and so I don't want to inundate the meeting with reading all of this, but in short, part of the first section of this ordinance, it says vegetation prohibited means that it shall be unlawful for an owner of any real property in the village to permit or allow any tree to remain on the premise or any part thereof that's infected or infested with any of the following diseases or insects, such as Dutch elm disease, oak wilt disease, Asian long-haired beetles, emerald ash borer, which we all know is a problem, gypsy moths, and other disease or insect infestation, which is deemed to be a nuisance by the Illinois Department of Agriculture or the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Also, we're considering any weeds to remain on the premise, such as jimson, burdock, ragweed, thistle, cockbur, wild carrot, poison ivy, wild mustard, rough pigweed, lamb's quarters, wild lettuce, curled dock, smartweeds, all varieties of poison hemlock, wild hemp, and so forth, and or other weeds of the like kind, excluding milkweed. I know those pop up. Any grass or plants on such premise other than trees, bushes, or flowers or shrubs, vines, ground cover, common garden crops such as farm food or other ornamental plants to grow or exist having a height in excess of 8 inches. And like I said, that's where we find folks is for tall grass over 8 inches. And lastly would be any bush, tree, plant, flower, or other vegetative variety to remain on such premise, such as if it's dead, substantially dead, in an unstable state, such as the same presents a risk of falling or causing physical damage to people or property, or is unmaintained or untrimmed, it states the same presence in a physical or blighted hazard. So I want the board to, I'm asking the board to consider approval of an ordinance such as this, to have folks be accountable. And as far as penalty, any person found in violation of these provisions of this article shall be fined no less than $100 and no more than $1,000 for each offense. Each day that the violation occurs or it is permitted to continue shall constitute a separate and distinct offense. An owner's abatement of nuisance greenery after the notice does not relieve the owner of the liability for violations that preceded this notice. And that's all I had. Did anybody have any questions on this?
Does this ordinance provide us the authority to go onto their property to do that?
The village shall provide written notice to the owner of any premise containing the nuisance greenery, requiring such owner to remove the nuisance greenery no later than 7 days after the date of notice. The notice shall describe the nuisance greenery with reasonable specificity, and then specific.
Specificity.
There you go.
That's a hard one.
We had a lawyer help draft this, so excuse me, that kind of thing. Identify the provisions of the article violated and shall warn the owner that the village may cause the removal of this nuisance greenery at the expense of the owner and record a lien against the premises for the cost thereof. If the owner fails to remove the nuisance greenery in a time period specified in the notice, where the property owner cannot be found or otherwise served with notice by mail, then alternatively, notice to abate a violation may be given by posting a notice in a conspicuous place near the main entrance of the structure or property. In the event the village incurs costs for the removal of nuisance greenery, then the cost shall be a lien upon underlying parcel. To perfect its lien, the village shall, within 1 year after the removal cost is incurred, record a notice of lien in the office of Cook County Recorder of Deeds. The notice of lien shall consist of a sworn statement setting out A, a description of the underlying parcel that sufficiently identifies the same, B, the amount of removal cost, and C, the date or dates when the removal cost was incurred. If for any one premises the village engaged in removal activities on more than one occasion during the course of 1 year, the village may combine any or all costs of these or those activities into a single notice. So to answer your question, this is all based on having the homeowner responsible for removing such. And it's a great point. I thought it was pretty specific in saying, who would be and I did have that with so I apologize that it's there's a small flaw there, because I did want to have a third-party contractor responsible for handling such. And I don't want village services doing that, depending on who the people may be, and there's no point in taking exception with village personnel. This would make the homeowner responsible for this particular debt, and I guess the second aspect of it would be, if we have to enforce this, then it would be through a third-party contractor. And I'll present that for the board for approval as well.
I think the big thing, though, is that we still need authority to go on private property to do this. And I don't see anything in here that says that.
Well, this just identifies with the homeowner being responsible for that debt. But as far as the other, like if we had to go in and enforce that, that's a separate notice I'd ask the board to enforce. Yes, or approve.
But, to me, it's all one fell swoop. I get that, we want to remove it. I'm all for it. But somewhere we need to either have the authority ourselves or pass that authority to a third-party contractor to go on someone's private property to do.
Would you like to do that?
I don't think that, to me, I'm not an attorney, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But to go on somebody's private property, if all of a sudden we hire XYZ Landscaping to do that, and the owner comes out and says, get off my land, what do you do? Where does it say that we have the authority to go on somebody's private property in order to facilitate this? Maybe it's somewhere else.
That's I'm double checking here just to be sure.
We've been writing these violations for years.
The problem I'm trying to identify, obviously, with what you just said, is the fact that, as the deputy chief just pointed out too, you've got repeat violators that just refuse to cut the grass, and we're being inundated with calls to the health department to address the matter, and it's like we can't do anything with it without having an ordinance like this in place to lien as such. But you do point out a point that it would have just took a not even a full paragraph, for the attorney to include that in this ordinance. I'll see if I can get that rectified this week and bring it back next week for discussion. I'll get it back to everybody next week for discussion.
Now I'm going to have to go back in my lawn and see if I got any of these weeds.
There's a big list there. But yes.
Remember, milkweed is good. Monarch butterflies like
All right,
that.
milkweed is good.
Anyway, that's all I had for a report. Clerk's report?
No report, Mayor Ryan.
Public forum, anyone from the audience wish to address this board? No one? Standing committee reports, Finance Committee, Trustee McGlowan.
I will have the usual list of accounts payable and payroll for approval, and that's it under finance.
And the Fire Committee report, Trustee McGlowan.
Yeah, we got a long list here under fire. We will start with the request to promote the next person on the eligibility list.
on,
Deadline for enunciation.
On July 9th, Lieutenant First will be retiring from the Alsip Fire Department after almost 29 years between part-time and full-time. I'd like to move the next person up to the lieutenant spot. I'm looking at what I would like to do is of course, board approval would have to swear that person in on the 16th, which would be the second board meeting of the month, and then swear that person in right after the approval. And that person would be a lieutenant on the 16th at that time, only because of other issues going on. I'm looking for the 16th to get all that done. It gives us enough time, so just what you guys think about it. Right now, when a lieutenant's off, the person that's acting up at Station 2 gets the same pay as first-year lieutenant, so salary-wise, it's the same cost. Whether I promote somebody or not, the acting officer is the same amount of pay. So this way it would reduce any overtime if that lieutenant's off, and then I'd have to put an overtime lieutenant on there. It's about $1,400 a day for a lieutenant on overtime.
All right,
So
and
it's cost neutral.
This will get you back to 6?
6 lieutenants, correct. And then the other lieutenant, he postponed his retirement maybe later this year. He's not sure yet, so.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Anybody have any questions on that? All right, next, discussion on purchasing the EMS reporting software.
Right. Trustee, I know you put that back on the agenda. I don't know what further discussion everybody want to have. I did pass out a copy, portion of an email. Finance Director Olivan sent me 6 questions regarding the budget. So this is a part of a response to his question he had with the ESO software, so maybe this will answer some other questions that everybody has about why we have to do that. There was attachments I sent out also to Finance Director. So that's why I brought Deputy Chief Ricker back with me for any questions regarding the software and why we have to do it, and so on and so forth. One thing that did change, the amount did change, and I spoke with Bob last week because we wanted to make sure the price was right, and when we originally got quotes, we gave them a quote for our total call volume. It's only EMS calls, so our initial cost went from $16,000 down to $12,000, and our recurring cost, I believe, was a little over $7,000 compared to $11,000. Yeah, so it's gone down considerably. And again, we just kind of verified what the amount was. So,
Okay. May I have any questions?
any comments on anything?
Nope.
All right.
So again, Chief, that was what, I apologize, I was just making a note here, but 12,000 in the first year and then,
Correct, and down to 7,500 every recurring year after that. And like I said in the email, or part of the question 5, it addresses all the issues and how it's compatible with our current records management system now. So again, we wouldn't have to have another computer interface to transmit information or however that works on the computer side. Right now, we have to do that with, well, we had to do it when we had the Pro Phoenix system in place.
and again, obviously, the current system that we were using, we knew we were only paying $2,500 a year for.
Correct.
Anything in between the 25 and 75, or?
It's all going to be about the same, and that's what Bob explained a couple weeks ago. Everything's based on call volume. Everything's based on Nemesis 3. There's a few other programs out there now. One of the things with ESO, it's going to be on the cloud, so we don't have to host our own servers, which means more equipment, which means more money in the long run. So there's a lot of other things that are with it. So that's why we're kind of apt to go with the cloud systems. It's proven very useful for us, beneficial for us.
Okay.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Right now I'm going to jump to number 4, discussion on disposing of the 2008 road rescue ambulance.
Right, this is the ambulance that,
What are you gonna do with it?
I'm sorry, whatever we can. I did speak to the mayor earlier today. I guess there was another town that might be interested in it. Take it off our hands, donating to them, and that's Dalton. To replace the motor in it's about $20,000, about $16,000 for the motor, and then another $4,000 to $5,000 for the work that's done on it. The trade-in value, our original goal was to trade it in. We would have got $3,500 with the trade-in value with the motor that was actually still working. It's a piece of junk. It's sitting in our firehouse. Whatever we need to do, get rid of it. It's really not worth really much to it for anything else. If somebody wants it, as far as I'm concerned, they can have it. I mean, it's up to the board, obviously, what we want to do with it, but there's no value to us. Even taking it to the scrap yard, what are you going to get? Maybe a couple $100. It's not worth it at that point. So,
Trustees, I was at an event Friday night hosted by one of our attorneys, and I met with the mayor and his of Dalton and his fire chief, and the fire chief expressed some interest. They're not totally for sure, but he expressed interest, asking what we're going to do with that ambulance. I told him I'd speak with the chief and obviously bring it to the board and see what they want to do.
and right now the village of Dalton does not have their own ambulance. They use Buds as a contract service, and I know for the last couple of years they've been looking to start their own service, as well as a few other agencies towards the east have been.
Everyone's experiencing budget constraints, but
Yeah.
obviously the difference, as the chief pointed out to me earlier, a $20,000 investment versus a new investment is substantially different and so forth then too. So
Absolutely.
I can put this on for
And so we need a disposal ordinance, don't we?
yeah, well, that's, I'm trying to think, Tris, what do we call that again?
And I'll grab the form. We have a disposal form also, so I'll have that for the next board meeting. So I just want to have the
Exactly.
discussion today.
We haven't really exercised a lot of those this year and so forth.
No, we haven't. There hasn't been a
of our
whole
stuff,
lot. Yeah.
No, if you can, any questions on it, would everybody be okay with that?
Yeah, I'll produce the add and delete sheet for
Add
the
and
next
delete,
board
thank you.
meeting.
That's all
So-
it was, right. Add and delete. If you can have one for the next board meeting, Chief?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We just need the authorization from the attorney, the disposal for that.
Right.
As a capital asset.
All right, so now for the tough one, discussion about purchasing 6 more Keltron radio boxes at a cost of $8,346.
Right now, we are out of them again. The last ones that we purchased, we've already used them. We really haven't talked about or spoke about a plan on what we want to do with it. Regardless, we just can't drop it. It's just still an ordinance where we're going to require it. We need to have the discussion, obviously sooner than later, on what the plans are. And if we're going to continue it, we're going to continue it. If we're going to discontinue it, we need to have a plan in place. We're working with a few other departments on how they disbanded it, and only because they were involved in the lawsuit. Again, it's districts, it's not municipalities. So right now we have 329 Keltron boxes in service. So out of the $65 a month that we charge, only 10 of it we actually lose out because that goes to the vendor for the maintenance and administrative costs with it as well. So realistically, we bring $55 in per box. Right now, it's 25 months to pay up what we pay out for the box for what we collect back in it, only because we lowered our fees. And I believe, I have to look again, I believe we're only about 15,000 of people that still owe us money that we do fine them for it, so we are collecting some of that as well. So,
How fast do you go through 8 boxes?
a lot of it depends on new businesses that are moving in town that don't have fire alarms, or because of an existing building that the contract is up and we have it in there, they can't auto-renew. So that's what the majority of ours has been lately, is doing that, is just the ones that don't do auto-renew anymore.
Because right now, I mean, certainly the board, go ahead, you got a call?
I got to go.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about it later.
Well, I mean, we can still, I'd like to find out what the need is. So is it something where when we order these things, that it takes 2 months to get? Very few times do we have a surprise opening of a business. So if the business is going to come to town, needs a Keltron, we should have ample time to order them.
Order one up.
To order 8, just so we have shelf stock,
Mm-hmm.
especially if we don't know if we're going to maintain the system or not. Seems to be counterintuitive to me.
I agree.
We talked about this at one of our last meetings, that, and just for, again, everyone's knowledge on the contract for the Caltron system, this is a sole-sourced alarm system that goes directly to our dispatch, but then this system initially was approved in November 26, 2006, and it was for a 3-year contract, and it automatically renews itself every 3 years. So that contract is actually up for renewal November 26th of this year. Will be part of that 3-year renewal. So should we decide, and again, we have to give a 30-day notice if we decide we're not going to renew that contract. But in the meantime, as the trustee said, if there's a need for 1 or 2, so be it. You know, if we have to order some, I'm sure we can get those pretty quick. I'm sure they've got those in stock wherever they're coming from then, too. I understand
remember
what
the chief saying before that there was, I can't remember, it was a 4-week or a 6-week lead time, but he also indicated that there is no discount in buying multiples. So if we don't need 6, there's no reason to buy 6. We should buy, I mean, if we have to.
Trustee, maybe if you can confirm with him, or if you want me to, I will. I know you're the chair for that committee, but if you want to double check and see if there's a need for specifically how many right now, because we have to at least get to November if we do decide to disband this. We still need what we do right now, and it may not automatically just flip off then. You might have people that still stay on the program, but maybe you can find out exactly, because that was my next question to him. Where's the need right now? Like, how many do we need right this moment? Not shelf stock. Let's see what we need exactly.
Okay, I will follow up with him on that, because, I mean, one thing, now, I know the contract that we have right now does indicate sole source. Don't know if there's a possibility of maintaining the program for those that like having it, but leaving it open for free market. I mean, so that it's not a mandatory option, it's
Right.
a voluntary option. I don't know if that's something that can be done or not. We'll potentially have to have the chief investigate that.
All right. So for right now, I guess the only thing we can do with this, like I said, let's confirm how many he might exactly need and put that on the agenda for next week. How many he exactly needs right now?
Okay, and Trustee Dalzell, you look like you have a question.
It seems to me that as we're going to have this finance meeting on Wednesday, this should be one of those topics so that we can finally nail this thing down, yes or no. If we're going to say no, let's say no and be done with it. If we're going to say yes, then let's stay in and do the right thing. But I still don't believe that we've got all the pieces of this puzzle. Every time we ask for revenue or expenses or where we are, it's always
It's a moving target.
down the road. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. That's all I have under fire.
All right, thanks. The Police Committee, Trustee McGrill.
I just wanted to know if we could have some further discussion on the proposed tow fees and review of information provided by the police chief. Maybe could you explain the purpose behind it and what the fees are exactly?
Well, the purpose behind it is that Chief noticed that other towns near us are charging an administrative fee to the tows. He just wanted to bring this to the attention of the board. we officially don't have a stance. We're not lobbying for it or against it. It's just making the board aware that other communities around us are charging a fee for the tows.
And this is specifically related to accidents?
Yeah, it would be anytime we would have a tow and you fill out a tow sheet, people have to come in to collect it. It would be an administrative fee for processing the tow sheet.
So, from the earlier discussion, it was my understanding that the tow company was going to collect the fee. Is that right? As I understood that.
No, that fee would be coming directly to us.
In order to get the release from the police department?
Yes.
So the fee would come directly to the police department?
Yeah, to the police department.
So we don't need to have any middle person in this. I didn't understand this contract, this example contract, like where there was a company called Technocraft involved. Is this just an example contract?
Exactly.
Because we don't have to have another person involved if we want to collect a fee, do we?
A lot of times what they do, and that was what some of the other towns that we spoke to, like in Oak Lawn, for example, in their case, what they do is they allow the tow company, because they're collecting all the fees anyway, they allow the tow company to collect the fee.
Okay.
And then at the end of I'm not sure if I believe it's a monthly or bi-monthly program, they actually have to submit a list of how many tows they did, and then they reimburse the village for that $50 fee then too. So so you're not running the two entities to make a payment and stuff.
Well,
But you are.
yeah.
They still have to pay the police department to get the tow release. So if you got an impounded vehicle, they have to come get the tow release, so the police department releases it to the correct party,
Right.
owner or authorized agent.
So then like you said, then we get right to the middle of things. They come right here and they square up with us then anyway.
That's what we're doing.
And on some of it, I get, but it just seems like on impounds, there's already $500 impound fee. Now we're going to throw another $50 on top of that for an administrative fee, along with the tow fee that they're actually going to pay the towing company. Or an abandoned vehicle, same thing. They're going to pay $50 to go get their car if they pick up their car. And on some of those, I'm not necessarily that concerned about it, because there's certainly costs for the police department to do what it is that they do, both on the street and then administratively, record keeping. But on some of the other ones, if you have a person who's a victim of a hit and run accident, now all of a sudden that person pays to get their car towed, which probably is reimbursed by the insurance company, but then they have to pay a $50 administrative thing because they were a victim. Not huge on that.
As far as the provision of them reimbursing us sometimes, I can speak firsthand. On Election Day last year, my car was totaled out, and I was a victim of a hit and run that day. I had my car towed from the scene off 127th Street all the way to Steger, Illinois, to a preferred body shop and so forth. So, I mean, in some cases like that, we'd have to be reimbursed for that fee, because I'm not coming to the police station. It was a tow that they charged for that went out to a specific location. That obviously a tow truck had to be called. Probably took 15, 20 minutes to get a tow out there to get me out of the way and so forth then too. But I tell you, this year alone, and the chief provided these numbers to us, this year alone, there were 91 accident tows, there was 160 arrest tows, and there was 52 other, they could have been abandoned or whatever. So basically we had 303 tows so far this year, and had we been collecting $50 each like Oak Lawn is doing, we would have collected over $15,000. And we're only halfway through the year. $30,000 can go a long way, to that department. Obviously, it's general fund money, but it's the police department. We can certainly earmark it that way then too, if they're the ones generating that. Figure something out fair, But there's $30,000 that we can recoup. And like I said, the chief and I looked at this, and there are some nearby communities that are taking advantage of programs like this yet too. A lot of cases, and I don't mean to, everyone wants to be cognizant, and I appreciate what you're saying too, trustee. We certainly don't want to inundate people that already have problems for the day and so forth then too, if their car has to be towed. But on the other side too, we are contacting a tow company, we are sitting on the scene for, could be a half an hour sometimes, in their interest, and just waiting for a tow truck and so forth yet too. We're not necessarily at a house or doing anything physical to try and help somebody out. So, like I said, I just looked at it in the interest of expediting this particular service, is why I felt it was relevant. I'd like to support the police department in this action to collect $50 per call, per tow. And we've never done it by the village, and there's been villages doing it for a long time, and obviously they're collecting on these monies and we're not.
That's all that I have.
Anything else?
No, that's all that I have.
Okay. Thank you, trustee. The Public Work and Boat Launch Committee, trustee Juarez.
No report.
Building Committee, trustee Zelinski.
No report this evening.
The Water and Sewer Committee, trustee Dalzell.
No report, Mayor.
About the License Committee, trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of a list of licenses dated 8/28, June 8th through the 22nd, 2018. That's all, Mayor.
All right. Economic Development Committee.
No report.
The Planning and Zoning Committee.
No report.
I know we got a couple of hearings coming up on the 11th.
Yeah.
Okay. The Village Property Committee, trustee McLaughlin.
No report.
How about Ordinance and Legislation Committee?
Skipped insurance.
Oh, here you go, Insurance, trustee McGrill.
No report, Mayor.
I'm not wearing my glasses. Here you go. Ordinance and Legislation Committee.
Discussion for reconsideration of the telecommunication tax.
To the board, I did speak with trustee Pierce, caught me after our Finance Committee meeting last week and asked me if we'd put this back on the agenda or to ask for any kind of discussion this evening for possible reconsideration at the next board meeting. This was voted on last week, and it died with a 4-1 vote. And after I resubmitted some information to all the trustees, after which the trustee Pierce said he was interested, and he said he was interested in possible support of this, and wanted the other trustees to take a look at it in case they were as well. Were there any questions on this?
Did you actually get the confirmation that it was not just landlines, but
Yeah, that's what I sent everyone this. I can send it again, trustee. I sent everyone this email. What this is known as a simplified municipal telecommunication tax that we're looking to adjust. This was introduced by the village back in 2003, and it hasn't been adjusted since. Right now, the
what
state.
were you planning, or what was the number, the actual number we were planning on
Well, right now you're
to vote on?
You're getting 3% right now, but you're going to increase it to 6%. You're asking for a 3% increase, which would actually equate, according to the finance director, it would equate to approximately $250,000 a year. And this tax is imposed by the provider of these types of telecommunications, which are taxable and include but are not limited to messages or information transmitted through the use of local, toll, or wide area telephone services, private line services, channel services, telegraph services, teletyper, computer exchange services, cellular mobile telecommunication services, specialized mobile radio, stationary two-way radio, paging services, and any form of mobile and portable one-way or two-way communications, and any other transmission of messages or information by electronic or similar means. So for the last few years, fiscal year 15, the village was paid by the Illinois Department of Revenue $344,000 in 2015. In 2016, we were paid $335,000. 2017 was 309,000. Last year, well, almost unaudited, basically this year is 281, and the projection for 2019, he's got 275, but give or take. And yes, it does cover all phones, both landline and cellular. Like I said, everything we just described, and this is per the Illinois Department of Revenue that established all this. And like I said, this came to be back in 2003 and hasn't been adjusted since. And the state actually receives 7% of the money, 7% of what comes in, and the village currently was getting 3%, and you're allowed to be at 6%, and that's what we're asking to do, is to be at the 6%. And that is paid by the provider. So not in all cases, it's not like you're getting a bill for this. This is on the provider. If your provider, let's say to be competitive with other providers, they may be waiving those fees in order to stay competitive. That's totally up to them in order to have your service.
Does that affect the village phones, too?
It may on landlines, through our provider, because even through our budgets, we saw, like, through the clerk's office, there was a fee, with a few of the different services, but there was phone fees, right?
I'd have to, there's a couple of bills floating around right now.
Can't say I've ever seen one described as such, but
The other yellow folder?
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Excuse me.
see if there's one in there.
Taxes and surcharges.
Again, it's paid by the provider according to this, so I don't know that they might be taxing you, but you don't know what the provider is actually paying. This is the whole thing.
It doesn't, all it says is taxes and surcharges on here, and this particular bill is $815.02.
For the overall,
Yes.
right.
When you get to different parts of this bill where they're calling out specific phone numbers, there is a line that simply reads Simplified Muni Telecom Tax.
Is there a number next to it?
For one line, it's $1.22. For another line, it's $1.16, $1.22, $1.22. $1.22, $1.22, $1.22, $1.22.
And that's what this is. This is the simplified.
So you're saying $1.22?
On multiple lines, and one was $1.16.
Right. Part of what the packet I had sent to the trustees, just as a reminder too, villages such as Bridgeview have it's 7% to the Illinois Department of Revenue, it's 6% to the village, so 13% overall. Bridgeview has this, Evergreen Park has this, Chicago Ridge is at 13%, Burbank is at 13%, Hickory Hills is at 13%, and Alsip was at 10% currently. And yes, this is known as the Simplified Municipal Telecommunication. So we're asking the board reconsider that at the next board meeting for possible approval. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Move on to IT, Trustee Dalzell.
No report, Mayor.
And Human Resources, Trustee McGrail.
Just informationally, I'll have department updates. That's all.
All right. Health and Pollution Committee
No report.
and Traffic Safety, Trustee Dalzell.
Police Department sent me the information for Gene and Joalis, so I'm presently reviewing that, seeing if I can secure a traffic counter tomorrow to get some of the statistics, and we'll go on with that request. That's all I have.
Trustees, any presentations, petitions, or communications? None? How about any unfinished business?
Just in case everybody, or not everybody saw their email, I did set up a meeting for Wednesday for an additional budget hearing.
I can't make Wednesdays.
Okay.
And Trustee Pierce will not be here
Right.
also.
Trustee Pierce is,
I won't be able to either. I have a work commitment that night, a work meeting. I can make any day but Wednesday.
and you have an issue with Wednesdays as well, don't you, Rick?
I will make it if, rather take Dad out, but
Right, well, Mayor, do you happen to know where we're at on updates? I mean, is there a point in even meeting on Wednesday, or, I mean, like I said, I put it on the agenda at the request of the finance director, but,
Finance Director, he is looking forward to Wednesday's meeting, yeah. So, I mean, what updates are you looking for?
well, I mean, we haven't seen any additional numbers.
Right,
So,
we
I mean, I
were
don't
barely
know-
through the general fund. We got 3 hours in the other night and stuff, so, no, we're looking to hit it again hard Wednesday night, see what we can do. We're trying to get this approved next month.
Well, and I mean, I know he has set a target of getting it done at the July 2nd board meeting, which is completely not possible. I mean,
Seems a little
it's-
aggressive.
Way aggressive, considering we haven't seen a final set of numbers yet. To pass it next Monday night, it makes no sense.
and we didn't get any answers yet. So we had brought out 4 issues with what had been presented at that meeting, and I know I haven't received it. Of course, I know the phone system here is broke, but
Okay, so I'll remind him tomorrow to get that back over to you.
right. And is he going to be here Wednesday?
Yeah.
It's not online.
Because, I mean,
I'm sorry. It's not
all of a sudden I just got notice today
online.
about the meeting last we discussed when we
Okay.
closed out the finance meeting, is we're going to meet at 6:30 before the next board meeting to discuss it further.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden.
Well, he had
it's-
suggested getting together at 6:30 tonight to finish going through the pages that we didn't go through.
Right.
And there was absolutely no point in doing that. I mean, without updated numbers and
Right.
reflective of the changes that were asked for.
Yeah, no, he's,
Correct totals.
yeah, no, he'll be in tomorrow, so I'll remind him tomorrow, get that back over to everybody then, too.
All right, because, I mean, if we're not ready, if we don't have anything substantial to review on Wednesday, then we're better off putting it off until a time when
Whatever you think.
our members are available. So, I will try to get with him tomorrow and let everybody know if we'll still meet on Wednesday or not.
So as of now, Wednesday's off?
No, it's on.
As of now, Wednesday's on, and I will let you know if it's going to be off. Unless there's somebody else that can't make it.
So it's a finance-only meeting.
Yeah, I put it out as a committee of the whole.
We're not going to have it. If we got 3 people missing.
Trustee Zelinski, you, me, and the mayor make a quorum. So,
Just for further reference, I
Just-
cannot make any
It
Wednesdays.
seems to me on the matter of finance, shouldn't we have all of the bodies here so that we can speak to the issues and resolve them rather than making decisions for people, trying to bring them up to speed? Just seems to me that
I'm
Well-
okay with that.
Next available date would be what? I don't know how much we would accomplish, but we can certainly meet at 6:30 on Monday, unless everybody wants to get, I myself, I'm not going to be available after Wednesday, so.
which is, I mean, we have until the end of July, and
We
I'm
have
not
until the
saying
end
kick the
of July.
can down the road, but for something this important, for us to sit there and try to rush this stuff, and that's what I feel it is this bum rush right now. We've made mistakes in the past. We're certainly going to make mistakes if we push these things, especially when, right now, we don't have all the information that we had asked for last time.
I think probably the only thing you can do, trustee, is if we're missing half the group, is
No, we'll postpone.
at least till Monday. We'll meet at 6:30 for a quick update.
I'm saying, especially with the holiday and people taking time off around the 4th, how does Tuesday, July 10th look?
For what? For a committee meeting?
For the next budget meeting, yes.
I think it's kind of far out. I think we should get it sooner.
6:30 Monday to dot the i's and cross the t's for what we hadn't accomplished last week.
I'm saying, I don't think 1 hour before the board meeting is sufficient time to be able to review the changes that we've asked for. So, like I said, I'm trying to be considerate of people's holiday time the following week.
July 10th is fine with me.
It's also fine with me.
So, we will cancel the meeting for Wednesday, and I will republish for July 10th.
Thank you.
Any new business? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the
moved.
motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We'll call this meeting, we'll adjourn this meeting rather at 8:30. Thank you.